This is the MIAA Weekly.
Welcome to another edition of MIAA Weekly. I am joined here by picker extraordinaire Jon Dykstra. Once again, I'm Witt. Jon, don't think I'm not going to give you a hard time about that.
We're starting it early. You were a whole two and what, 4, and you got
what you meant to say, I was better than you.
Yes.
But no, we had a wild week, Jon. I was out at another game, and my cell phone was blowing up, Jon. We got all these upsets cooking. We got Emporia State going. We got Central Oak. We got Northwest playing awesome. It was like a wild week. You had to have some trouble keeping track of yourself.
By rights, I feel like I should have been over on the picks because I feel like Washburn had a very good chance to win that game. But it was a wild week. The picks show it. Northwest coach Rich Wright, right when I went into the press conference, he and SID Colin McDonough were giving me a hard time, and some of our other pickers for our local games here a hard time over picking Hayes. But
yeah,
man, we've got another guy coming on later that might give us a hard time. It was an exciting week of MIAA football, that's for sure.
Mike, give us one. He's in the green room. He's already given us a hard time. What are you talking about?
He has. I'm sure he's saving the best for later.
Well, let's we're going to go ahead first and talk real briefly about these. Came out just before we towards the end of the day. Give us a quick observation. We had some players of the week. Jet Huff is first. Tell us a little bit about that.
Boy, when you got highlight games like we had this week, you got lots of options for players of the week, and UCO themselves had a couple good ones with Jet and then their wide receiver Terrell Davis. But yeah, Jet threw for 457 yards and 3 touchdowns. Really a really good day, obviously going head to head with Zach Zabrowski there. So kind of have to keep pace in a game like that. And as we'll see later, they more than kept pace with that one.
Next up, we have a guest in the green room waiting to talk with us. Something tells me he's going to take some special interest in this. Tell me a little bit about our defensive player, athlete of the week.
I mean, 9 tackles and a pick. That's a real good game. And then you throw on it, topping D2Football.com's number 3 ranked team in the country, Pitt State, who has already proven themselves worthy of that ranking. I mean, they beat Ferris earlier, and Emporia goes in there and shuts them down, holds them to 21 points. That's hard to do. And for the second straight week, they got the defensive player of the week.
Well, and in addition to that, they didn't come away with just one award. What do they got here?
No, I should let you handle the kickers and the punters. I know you
special team specialist.
Entrance to that, but when you win a game 24-21, guess what? That field goal was really important, and he knocked it through and gets an honor there. And Caden's been doing it for them for a little while now, so good honor for Mr. Dodson.
Well, and this is kind of the game that we've been hinting at, and the one that we were saying a week ago. I was on this show, Jon, saying, you know what, I had watched the Emporia State's last game against Angelo, and I was not convinced that they were a ranked team yet. Well, they went and marched on with that, and we're going to go ahead and kind of take a look at the video here. We're going to go ahead and see a little bit of, we're going to go to the jungle.
That's your best friend.
Everybody's getting ready to go here. Emporia's already. We got the Gorillas already, even the mascot. An offensive football game, back and forth here, where Pitt was able to drive, get a lot of yards in this contest. Outgains Emporia by over 100 yards, but Emporia was able to bowl their necks when they needed to. Gunnar Gundy hitting Tyler Common, and you're going to see this a few times in these highlights because he made some real big catches for the Hornets in this one. And as we kind of continue on, I'm getting messages as we were talking about before, Jon, and saying, hey, you know what? Every time Emporia is able to hit the gas again in this one, and there's Tyler Common again. Yes, and one of those games where a play like this, a tip ball, goes the Hornets' way. I thought their defense and their ability to bowl their neck was what was really important in this contest. And you see, Gundy throws a real nice ball here as Common scores, and
Is that guy?
a real big surprise to me. I saw Pitt State beat Ferris and kind of handle them. And for them to go ahead, Emporia to come on into the jungle and win this game, I thought it was very impressive. What was your take from it, John?
My take is the line play at Emporia is to be able to hang with a team like Pitt State, and we've alluded to a couple of times, we saw them against Ferris and how good that line was, and for Emporia State to neutralize that and set themselves up in position to win this game, just really impressive. And the defense, obviously, we'll talk more about that with our guest here, but man, that's as impressive as it gets, an early season win, that's for sure.
Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and welcome in his 17th season with Emporia State, Garin Higgins. Coach, greatly appreciate you joining us. Heck, we should have had you doing the highlights. What are we doing here, Coach?
Hey, you guys did fine. You guys did great.
So I was there, Coach, just a few weeks back, seeing the big crowd for Ferris State. I bet you had a pretty big crowd and a lot of stuff to deal with there yourself.
No, it's always a tough place to play, playing at the Jungle. And I will say this, we've played there 4 out of the last 5 times, so we're used to it. And I do think that helped a little bit. We're 21-6 the past 2 years and playing in the MIAA. So I've always felt like, even this year, going into this year, I felt like we had an opportunity to be a good football team, and it's still a young season, and we know that you got to be ready every Saturday, especially in the MIAA. But again, our kids just they're ready to play, and a lot of veterans on this team that have been together 4, 5, 6 years, and I think that plays a huge part.
Coach, going in, and John, I meant to ask this to Coach earlier, but Coach, the challenge I really thought you were going to have in this football game is I thought that they were going to get to the passer quite a bit, but I was really impressed, and I have been now 2 weeks in a row, with how your defense has been able to bowl their neck. You guys end up having 3 picks, you get 4 sacks in this game. Tell me a little bit about their performance.
Yeah, they played outstanding. They've been carrying us this year, and I'm glad to see that. It hasn't always been that way. I mean, we have been known for putting up a lot of points on offense, but they're carrying us right now. And another thing you need to look at in that game, besides the turnovers, is how well we did on third down. We were able to. They outgained us, but a stat that you have to look at is, their percentage on third down was not very good. Our guys were able to get off the field. And they've been getting turnovers. They all year, even going back to the first game of the year, we struggled a little bit in the first half offensively against Washburn. I think it was 6-0. And then, of course, Angelo State, that was I think both of us combined might have converted on 2 third downs the whole Saturday. So they've been playing outstanding, and we do have a lot of depth over there on that side of the football. I think it starts with our guys in the trenches up front. They're able to get some pressure on the quarterbacks, and we do play a 3-man front. But those guys have been doing a great job, and I think it's helping out the second level guys in the secondary.
Yeah, Coach, you kind of mentioned the trenches there, but I mean, we saw Pitt State really beat up Ferris State in that first game of the year, and that's obviously what they're known for. But what have you seen from your big guys on both sides of the ball to really neutralize them? And then Billy got a big first down there late in the game to help seal that too, running the ball.
Yeah, no question. Just speaking on our offensive line I thought they did a great job. We went into this game without our starting center. We had lost our starting center middle part of the week last week in practice, and we had to go with the redshirt freshman in the jungle. All right, and you can get a little nervous as a coach. But again, our guys just stepped up, and we were able to run the ball effectively. And talking to my offensive line coach, Coach Cash, who's also our offensive coordinator, and he said this, that since he's been here, that was the most effective run game that we've had against them. And again, I think that was one of the things that helped us get the win. And then, like you said, there at the end, we were able to ice the game. Billy Ross, another veteran that's been basically a 3-year starter for me, does everything right. Can catch the ball out of the backfield, does great in pass protection. And our guys up front were able to give him enough space there to secure the win. And if you want to go and win championships and do things that maybe you haven't done before, it starts with both sides of the trenches on both sides of the ball.
Coach, I think there's been a lot of eyes on the quarterback competition you guys had leading into the year. Gunnar Gundy, kind of comes on in. I know he's a guy that you had recruited out of high school, and you guys had maintained that relationship. Tell me a little bit about kind of getting him ready and how you think he's done so far.
Yeah, I think I would have loved to have had him during spring football.
Sure.
But we weren't able to do that. And he was at another school for about 2 weeks. And by that time it was kind of too late. So we got him in May. And then even though we got him in May, as you know, in Division II with the rules, it's not like we just were going out there and running our offensive sets and our offensive plays with him. You kind of had to depend on, our veteran guys like Tyler Coleman. We have all of our guys stay here during the summertime, and that was huge. That was big because not only was he able to get comfortable with our guys, just, throwing the ball to them and learning the offense and talking to those guys about the things that we like to do. And of course he could come in and ask us and talk to us, voluntarily. But the other part of that was just getting to know our guys. And that to me was the most important thing. And I know that we're getting a lot of attention. He gets a lot of attention. Of course, plays quarterback, and his father's the head football coach at Oklahoma State. But we got a lot of good players on this offense, and we got 10 starters basically back that surround him. And but I've been very pleased with what he's been able to do up to this point. What really excites me, guys, is that he has such a big ceiling as far as like how much he can improve. He has the ability and he has talent, and he's very smart. He's a coach's son, of course. He's very cerebral in how he prepares and how he does things. But we're also breaking habits. He had been at Oklahoma State for 3 years, and we do things differently with our offensive system. We like to get the ball out quick. We're not we'll take shots when we need to take shots, but we're very efficient in our passing game. So it's been a process. But the thing that has pleased me the most with him is that he has just embraced everything. He's embraced everything about this university. You wouldn't think he comes from Oklahoma State and kind of the pedigree that he brings with him. I think we call guys that we go out and recruit OKG, our kind of guys. The guys are going to fit in here at Emporia State. And he's just one of those guys. And I think that's been one of the biggest things that, to me, that has paved the way for his success, is just him being comfortable around our players.
Sure.
Well, you go from one of the newest guys in the program to one of the oldest. I'm going to ask you about with Tyler Coleman, 6th year in the program, obviously getting that extra year, but really broke out last year with 1,200 receiving yards. Has kind of steadily seen his role grow year by year, and if it grows any more this year, I don't know what that goes to. But what have you seen from Tyler, kind of playing with Braden all those years, and now getting in here and getting comfortable with Gunnar?
Well, I mean, Tyler's very talented, of course, talented athlete, and he was one of our early commits back in, I can't even, it's been so long, 2019, I think. And he committed to us in December and was a 3-sport athlete, and he's a typical player that we have had success with here at Emporia State. We do recruit transfers. We don't have a lot on the team, but we do believe here that, bringing guys in and being able to develop them and cultivate them. And I know the landscape of college football with the transfer portal has changed things, but here's a player that has stuck with us. And he had 20 touchdowns last year. And as you said, 1,200 yards. I mean, statistically alone could have put his name out there and got a lot of attention. Sure. But he decided to stay with us. And that tells you what type of individual that he is. That's why he is a team captain for us. And that's why, and again, he's talented, but he also understands this offense. We don't change a lot. We've had the same coaches here, basically. And I think the core nucleus has been here with him. So he's just grown as a player. And not only that, but he's captain, and he has grown with being a vocal captain. And he's taken really Gunner under his wing and helped the progress with Gunner.
Coach, Sage Saperda was Defensive Player of the Week 1 week ago. I believe 11 stops against Angelo State. I think he had another 9 tackles, this last weekend. Tell us a little bit about kind of what he does for your defense. And you know what, Coach, so much attention is always paid to your offense and how you guys are able to score points. Shine a little bit of light on the other side of the ball, because I think there are a whole lot to do with how you guys are performing.
Listen, and I'm glad to do that. And I'm an offensive guy. All right. I'm over on the good side. Okay. And I'm glad to be able to talk about our defense, because I've been doing this a long time, as you can tell with all this gray hair I got. But you win championships with having a great defense, bottom line. And you guys know this. So it's good to see our guys over on that side of the ball step up, play the way they're playing. I'm so proud of them. And I'm proud of guys like Sage Saperda. Again, I'm going to go back to a little bit about our philosophy here and the way that we do things. Again, Sage is a player he walked on for us 5-6 years ago. And now he has stuck with us and has been patient and has developed into the type of player that he is. He cares about this university, cares about his teammates. And I know it's Division II, but I believe in that here. That's how we are successful here. All right. We have talent. Don't get me wrong. You got to have talent to win games, but I also believe you got to have players that care for one another and they take pride in playing for their university. And I know that sounds cliche-ish and all that stuff, but that's what works for us. All right. And he's a perfect example of that. And has gotten his opportunity. He got his opportunity last year. He started, I think, his first game of the year last year was against Northwest Missouri, who we beat, on the road. And he started at Mike linebacker for us and has just continued to progress.
Coach, you mentioned gray hair, but I'm going to take it a little wider here with the your coaching staff this year. I mean, I'm feeling old look at them, because there are a lot of guys that I watched play at Emporia State over the years. Jace as co-defensive coordinator, obviously Braden, Cade played yes. Obviously for you. Just a bunch of those guys. Talk about that and the culture they kind of create as former players that aren't that far removed from being the same age as some of the guys on the team.
Yeah, and I do get asked that question a lot. And then Danny Goodman, who's my special teams coordinator, he was a 2-time all-conference center for me. But again, I don't know. I just I'm a big believer in guys that understand the way that you do things, and they love this football program. And I know it's hard to keep coaches at this level, but I've been able to see these guys grow as not only players and because those guys you just talked about, they all were here for 5 years. Okay. And now they're getting ready to be fathers. Coach Goodman already is a father. So I do feel kind of like, grandpa, I guess you might say. But it's special to me. And, it's one of those things that, again, it goes back to the way that we do things here within our culture. and I got coaches here. My receivers coach is from Washburn. Our rival, Coach Chavis, and then Coach Cash Dollar, my offensive coordinator, offensive line coach, is from Ashland. So I do have some other coaches. I think it's important to bring new ideas to the table. And then Coach Saporto, our defensive coordinator, he's been with me since I got here. He was a player when I first got here back in 2007. I remember I tried to run him off as a player, but he just stuck with me. And he's been here with me ever since, and has done a great job for me. And again, it makes my job easy to the extent of like they know what is expected of them. Not only is what was expected of them as players, but now as coaches, they're able to pass those things that they know about onto their players. And again, I just think it really helps us. And I'm lucky. I'm lucky to have the staff that I have here. I believe in, the longer that I've done this, and I do still stress about games and about everything. All right. From what we're wearing I still do that, but it does make it a little bit easier to have guys that just believe in what you're doing. And quality of life is important to me, and coming to work every day and being around these guys. Sometimes I do forget that they're coaches now. Okay. Sometimes I still feel like I'm coaching them every once in a while, and I might get on them a little bit. And I got to remember they're grown men and they're coaches. So, but I love coming to work every day with those guys.
Coach, one last question for you. We'll let you leave. You guys host Mo West this weekend. Then you got Northwest Missouri State the week after. Not too many off weeks per se in the MIAA.
No.
Coach, let me ask: when you throw on the film for Mo West, what do you see?
Good football team. Very well coached. I think Coach Fenwick does a great job there. They're a talented team. They are. They're setting it 2-1 right now. We went on the road there last year. We were undefeated at the time and got beat. And we were 9-3 last year. Didn't make it to the playoffs. That's 2 years in a row.
Right.
So we know what is coming here on Saturday, and we know that there's, I'm sure, talk, discussion, whatever, of us having a letdown. That's our job as coaches to make sure. And I think our veterans understand that you got to be ready every Saturday. You have to respect everybody in this league. But I think where we're at, we do not fear anybody in this league. Where our program's at right now. So good football team, and we know that we have to be ready to play.
Coach, I'm going to wrap it up with just one more here, but win a game at Pittsburgh State. I worked in Iola, Kansas, right in between you two.
Right.
So I know that rivalry, and even though you've got the Turnpike tussle, it means something to beat Pitt State. What's it been like kind of since that game, and both inside the program and even out in Emporia these last couple of days?
Well, as you can imagine, there's so many former players that have texted me and alums and guys I played with. I played here. This is where I went to school at, and this is my alma mater. Which is great. And it's been, I think 2016 was the last time that we beat Pitt at Pitt. And, we have a great respect for their program, the tradition that program has. Ever since I've been here, guys, we've been trying to grow this program, and we have done some things here that has never been done basically in the last 12 years. It's never been done at this university. And we know that, and we play with the chip on our shoulder, guys. And you guys know this. Nobody picked us to win last week. All right. I kind of gave you guys a hard time about that, but I understand.
You were right.
I get it. I get it. And we don't jump much in the polls. I get it. Okay. We just do what we do. We use it as fire, but at the same time, I think the best thing for me was, our players and our former players that, reached out, and just to see, our guys work hard here. They do. And we feel like we're a team from across the tracks a little bit. We don't have an indoor facility. We have a great fan base here, but we're not going to put 10,000 in the stands here. I wish we would, but we're not. Maybe we will. So it feels good. I think that hard work and when guys and hard work doesn't guarantee success. It doesn't guarantee wins. I do know that, but it was good to just see this group of individuals, guys that have been here together for a long time, and have lost some very difficult games, the last 2 years that have kept us out of the playoffs. One was Missouri Western last year, and the year before that, the last game of the year at our place, Northwest Missouri, that kept us out. Our guys remember that. And, the guys that have stuck with it, is good to see them get that big win on Saturday. So there's a lot of buzz around here. And here's what I've told our guys. We celebrated that victory, and we watched the film yesterday, and then we put it away. All right. And now it is earmuffs and blinders, baby. We're focusing in on this week, and that game is over. That's what we're supposed to do, is win football games, and let's move on, and let's prepare to go get a victory this Saturday.
Well, Coach, congratulations on a huge win at Pitt. Monster win against a top 5 team like that. I really appreciate you making time for us.
You bet.
And hopefully we'll catch up with you again sometime along the way, okay?
You bet, guys. Hey, I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Well, John, we will go ahead and move on to some of the other upsets that we had in the league. And let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what else we saw. By the way, this is another one of those games I was getting a bunch of text messages about. Central Mo against Central Oak. And we're going to go ahead and roll some of the video here. And John, you want to talk about this one? I can handle it either way.
Yeah, we can split it up here. Let's talk about this game.
Let's throw it on. And first thing I noticed is in their first series, John, Central Mo got sacked twice in that first series. And I thought, okay, AD and company are going to go ahead and look to put some emphasis on some pressures, is what I saw out of that.
They've got the trenches working, that's for sure. I mean, that guy right there, Jet Huff's going to get a lot of the headlines. But like we just talked about with Coach Higgins, it starts up front, and it does for UCO as well.
Yeah, and not too many guys are going to outpass him, Zabrowski, in terms of passing yards in a game. Matter of fact, that might be the only time. He goes ahead and is able to catch his running back here, Marcellus Hawkins, out in the open for a score. And this after a scoreless first quarter, then the race started from there. Did it not?
Yeah, it certainly did. We were just watching that live stats during the Northwest game and just watching them go up and down the field against each other. And that, man, they put on a show. Yeah,
this play here was actually a touchdown. The alligator arms by the ref there for a moment. But it was clearly a touchdown and was ruled as such moments later. And, you're watching this, you're going, okay, whoever's going to have the ball last is going to win. And then all of a sudden you start to see UCO hitting some big plays in the run game. Not a good run fit here. We get loose, and all of a sudden they're starting to create a little distance. Is that what you were kind of seeing as that second half wore on?
Yeah, Cottrell is just a really good player too at running back. He's been there a while. He kind of got usurped as a starter last year, and now he's back. And boy, he looked good in this one.
2 big scores from him here. We'll get a chance to see AD with his newfound gold chain here in a moment, where it says CEO on it. One of these weeks, maybe I have to get him on and ask him a question or two about that. But I think he got doused a little bit, and you know what? They got some good energy, and they should with a game like that and a big win.
Covering AD in the past, that was probably all just sweat. That was he works hard on the sideline there, so he didn't have his towel in that one. So, but that's a great win for UCO. We talked about in the preseason, like, when we feel like they're going to break through eventually. When's it going to be? This might be the year. 2-0 to start off the year. We weren't sure after an NAIA win last week, and now we're pretty sure that's a pretty big win when you knock off the number 2 team in the country.
Well, and Jet Huff now all of a sudden makes his emergence, on a big stage like this. a year ago with the Houston Cougars, Division One squad, and a little bit kind of undersized, 5'8", but is able to sling it. He was a 3-year starter down College Station in high school, and took his team to high levels there. And so he's I think he's kind of ready for the moment here, and I thought he did a great job. Not only making some plays with his feet, but also having huge plays like that to kind of outshine Zabrowski a little bit. I can't believe I'm saying that, John.
I mean, these Big 12 quarterbacks are doing something in the MIAA this year. We just talked about Gunnar Gundy and old Jet coming from Houston too. But if you look at the bottom of that box score right there, Terrell Davis, that guy was fantastic in this game. 14 catches, 203 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, those three we have listed there in the stats with Cottrell and Huff and Davis, you're going to find a hard time finding better stat line from a receiver, runner, and passer than those.
Well, and then as we go along, we kind of look at some of the other games we had. Welcome to what don't know what to expect week to week with the Bearcats from Northwest Missouri State. Just when we thought we kind of had them figured out, maybe we didn't. Let's go ahead and throw on some of the video here, John.
Yeah, they ran the ball. I mean, they hadn't been able to run the ball these first few weeks, and there's Tank Young getting in for a touchdown. But that running game woke up after they were down 14-0 in this game, and they were able to turn it around. They stopped the run on defense. Shane Fredrickson, we'll see more of him later. But right at the end of the half here, this was the big play. A deep ball with about 5 seconds left for this next play. After they hit that deep ball, they go right to Jaden Brady in the flat and hit him for a touchdown with 5 seconds left, tying the game at halftime. And that at that point, Rich Wright said after the game he felt really good about it because they had all the momentum. You see Tank Young scoring again here. That running game woke up against a Fort Hays defense that's been really good, and they managed to do it. And then it was right after a pick from Chris Runke, and immediately Shane Fredrickson gets the pick back, and that really kind of sealed the game for them there with that play. And here's Tank Young one more time getting down the sideline. It was just a really good effort and a different Bearcat team than we've seen in weeks past. And you saw them week 0, and then you saw some of the highlights there. That just feels like a different team, doesn't it?
Certainly a different energy as well.
Yeah.
You know what? After all the doom and gloom a week ago, is there a lot of excitement behind this win in Maryville? Is there a kind of a tempered excitement? What are your thoughts?
You know how Bearcat fans love some doom and gloom, so they have a hard time getting rid of that. But no, there was, especially with how the MIAA looks as a whole right now, and we'll talk more about that as we go here. But those 2 losses by the quote unquote favorites in the league that we just talked about, it feels pretty open. Northwest has Emporia in 2 weeks here at Maryville. It feels like that game and some others, all of a sudden, I mean, you see the record there, it's 1-2, but one of those losses is to Minnesota State. So 1-1 in the league. They're 1 game behind Emporia for first in the league. That's not somewhere you kind of felt like they were going to be after dropping that game to Nebraska Kearney. So the more we see, the more I'm convinced I don't know too much about this league. But it's really, this week turned kind of everything on its head, and Bearcat fans, I think, are just trying to catch up to what's possible now.
Or did you think that you knew who Fort Hays was, and then after this game kind of say to yourself, I guess I don't know them as much as I thought I did?
Well, it's maybe a more of they are kind of who they are still. We've talked a lot about having all those starters back, and that's a good thing, but a really good thing, because I still think they're a very quality team. But they don't quite have that big playmaker, that big, like all those guys are back and they're all very solid, but they kind of lack that it factor in this game to really break out, I think. And the Watts boys both give them a little bit of that, but in the second half, Northwest was able to take Trevor Watts out of the game. And Rich Wright got very specific post-game with X's and O's of how they did that because they wanted to take him out of the game. And it felt like once they took that short passing game to Trevor Watts out of the game, then that really limited everything else because Northwest was able to stop the run with Shane Watts very well. So, yeah, I mean, it was 14-0 immediately in this game. And the rest of the game, it was 32-6. So this was really a pretty dominant performance from Northwest and something we just haven't been anywhere close to seeing the first 2 games of the season.
No question about it. Our next game, a little bit of a surprise. We thought that Washburn would account well, of themselves in this one. But boy, this was a pretty close game, and let's go ahead and I'm gonna throw on some of the video here that we've got for Mines and Washburn, and you're gonna go ahead and see right away they're able to hit a fly route. The Ichabods are, and this is one of those games where I thought athletically they'd be in a decent spot, and wouldn't blink. But what I find interesting as I continue to watch Colorado Mines, they're running the football a whole lot. Landon Walker had 4 scores for them. We just saw one a moment ago. You get the chance to see some of the speed Washburn has, and at the same time, that was wide open going the other way, John. And then as we go ahead and we kind of move on, Washburn's able to hit some plays through the pass, and another game where I was getting some messages going, okay, Witt, this might be a big upset. When you really look at it, I think this is the biggest difference, John, when we see Colorado Mines this year, is they're not so reliant on the quarterback's arm and him to make all the plays. There are a lot more big plays coming in the run game for them here. And, you see, Walker got 4 touchdowns in this one. Ends up kind of being in the difference here late in the game. Ichabod's got a chance to tie it with a field goal here. It ends up coming up just a little bit short, and you can see on the other sideline, Mines, I think, was feeling pretty good, the fact that they escaped here. I know you were following the game a whole lot more than I was. I was, a bit busy covering another one at the time.
Yeah.
What was your take? And obviously, we talked about the other night, Max McLeod, their star receiver, got ejected for throwing a punch. Tell me a little bit more about kind of your viewpoint on this one.
Yeah, I flipped it on when I saw in the live stats 31-28 in the fourth quarter. So I flipped it on for most of the fourth quarter and flipped it on after all the scoring was done. But like 2 plays after I turned it on was when McLeod threw a punch, and you couldn't really see on the broadcast because he's downfield, he's a receiver. It kind of scanned to him right as he threw it. So you saw him, but you didn't see the lead up to it. He's obviously we just talked to Coach Higgins about Tyler Common, and I think a lot of people would say those are maybe the 2 best receivers in the country. So that's a big loss for them. He'll be back, obviously. It's not a thing where it wasn't a huge thing other than taking a swing and missing that game, the end of that game. But down the stretch, they had a couple pass interference calls that I thought looked like they grabbed a hold of them and weren't called, that Washburn maybe could have threatened to score. And then there was an odd play on the last drive where Colorado School of Mines was offsides, and normally you let that play continue. They threw a touchdown on it, and then they said, I guess the technical ruling would be that there'd be an inadvertent whistle, and they wiped that off the board. You could argue if some of the players heard the whistle, then maybe it wouldn't have been a touchdown. But it was an odd play too, because the radio crew thought they had a touchdown until they saw the flag or the flag and the whistle later. But really, nationally, this is going to be a lot about Mines, and are they kind of the same Mines of old? But within the MIAA, it just says a lot about Washburn, and they're 0-2, but They play Emporia, who now looks like who's surely a top 25 team in the country, and they played well with them. They hung with them for half or three quarters, and then taking mines down to the wire like this. That's an impressive start to a season. Who, with the way Kearney had started the season, you might have said Washburn was maybe last in the league right now based on where they were. But I don't think you can do that after the way they've acquitted themselves in these first two games.
I can't disagree with any of that. The last game on the slate, Mo West against Southern. And you know what, John? I wasn't planning on us having any video for this game. I stumbled upon it at the last moment. So you know what? We're going to go ahead and let that go. And real nice job here. Some video from Mo West.
I'm sure that's a Ryan Menley video, and Menley does a great job with that stuff.
Yeah, this is good stuff here. And you get a chance to see some of the speed and athleticism at the same time for Mo West that I think is going to be it's a real challenge as well for when they've got Emporia this week. But this game was back and forth itself, and you're going ahead and seeing some of the highlights here for the Griffins. But as things kind of moved ahead, you're going to go ahead and see Southern score here on a touchdown pass, and all of a sudden, this game got a lot closer as it continued. Real big play here, kick return score that ends up giving them a little bit of breathing room here for Mo West, and I think this is a squad that we're almost going to run the risk, John, of sleeping on a little bit, because so many of the other teams. There's been a lot of loud noises above them, and I'm curious as to see how they start playing against some of the teams that we perceive to be that top 4 or 5.
Yeah, they had that. If you would have just taken the games kind of in order of how we did them, and I didn't know this result before talking about Hayes dropping that game to Northwest and how they looked in that, because Hayes beat them by 14 last week. So you're a little down, but then this is a good Missouri Southern team. They just beat and had control of that game. And I still can't, and maybe that's by design, figure out their quarterback situation. They went back to Kane Donovan in this game, and he was 17 of 18 for 151 yards, a touchdown, and no picks. That's efficient. That is efficient. And they have Brandon Hall, who we talk about every week with them, but he is a great player. 22 carries for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. Brandon Hall is as good a running back as there is in this league. And if you can get that efficient quarterback play with the way Brandon can run the ball, suddenly we're talking about something there in St. Joe. And the big test is this week probably against Emporia team, but you gotta feel better this week if you're a Griffin fan than you did the first 2 weeks with that scare in Tahlequah and then losing by 14 to Hayes.
Absolutely,
it feels like a get right game, and now you really have the chance to prove it against Emporia.
Well, John, we're gonna kind of take a little bit of a breath here. And we're going to take a quick little shot here and look at the league standings, which are pretty much exactly what we assume them to be after a few weeks, right?
Exactly.
You'll notice we've got in the red box the ones who have been put in detention. No, Pitt State, Northwest, and Central Mo were the clear-cut preseason favorites, I thought, and any of the polls were saying that, of course. Now we're looking at this right away, and it makes you kind of wonder, is this going to be this wide open a race, or how do we see it going forward? Do you think this is just a crazy week, or what do you walk away with?
Well, if you look at that, the crazy thing is after 2 games for most of the league in conference play, everybody except Southern still controls their own destiny because they all still play each other for the most part. It's like you can, if you're Northwest or you're Pitt, Northwest is the best example because Pitt and Central lost to other teams undefeated. But it's like you went out and you're in good shape. Like all these teams have had their bumps in the road, obviously, and we're looking at Pitt and Central because theirs happened this week. Northwest happened the week before, but it's like now you just hop right back in, and if you're the team that you thought you were going into the season, all of a sudden everything's in front of you again. It's kind
I think
of,
it really empowers the rest of the league to some extent, don't you?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you've got all these, and then you were sleeping on the top of the league. We got a great matchup between two of the three undefeated teams this week. But after this week, there's at most going to be two undefeated teams in the league, and normally it's not that way. So it's just going to be interesting every week. If this week taught us anything, it's that every week's unpredictable.
Well, we're going to kind of exhale after a really busy, crazy week. And for a lot of people, they know that Boss's Pizza and Chicken is a sponsor for us at
You
D2
said exhale,
Football.
but maybe inhale some pizza?
You know what's funny is that this is very relevant to folks in MIAA country because, John, as you know, Bosses is looking to expand to like a hotel location for like a hotel bar kitchen type setup. Yeah, they're looking to open up two of them in Omaha, one in Springfield, Missouri, one in Mankato. And on their website, they've got information about franchising. So they have asked us to go ahead and spread the word on this. And if people have interest, let them know that D2 Football sent you. Don't tell them the MIAA Weekly. They might not catch that. D2 Football. I'm going to need for you to say that if you have any interest in being a franchisee, they'll fully train you in the whole deal. And John, I realize that we need to talk about that, but you and I think a little bit more about things like pizza and wings and stuff like that.
I haven't had dinner yet, Witt. You're killing me with this.
Well, there you have it. Now, there's their locations that are listed that they have currently. If you didn't know, there's quite a few Bosses locations, anywhere from North Dakota to out almost to Wyoming. Now, that said, what would you be more of, John? Are you more of a pizza guy or a wings guy?
Oh man, I know you like to combo them up a little bit.
Yeah, I don't like to be just kind of, you can't put me in a corner and tell me I got to pick one or the other.
Well, you can't really put me in a corner either, and that's what gives us the physique that you see before you.
Yes.
But it's kind of depends on the day. Right now, I'm really looking at those wings, and they look quite appetizing.
Yeah, they look like they got a little zip to them as well. So that's always something that catches my eye. Now, let me tell you something that caught my eye before we went live on the show, and one of our interns must have highlighted that area in yellow because I don't know who did that, but John, I think
got my dunce cap on. I was bad this week.
You could just wear a bag over your head and do your picks, but
I was Cleveland Brown style.
So Massey went 3-2. John was able to find a way to scratch one win.
Barely.
Witt went 2-3, and in his mind he did better, but the numbers suggest 2-3. So John, for the year, Massey is kind of kicking our butt a little bit, 13-5, because Massey was riding with Northwest like it wasn't even a thing last week.
Yeah.
And then John is 10-8. John, you're keeping your head above water, and Witt is one game better. So in other words, if you guys are betting with your friends, don't necessarily watch this show and go use your wallet based on what we're saying.
Whew, yeah, I would say not to. And I've been reminded of this number now a few times this week with Coach Wright and then Coach Higgins just now too.
Well, good. I'm glad you have. I'm glad they got you for that. I think they call that a clapback. That's what the kids say.
Yeah.
So here's our slate of games. With all that we talked about, I'm not crazy excited about this week, John, but I think there's some interesting matchups. The first one we have is actually the one we're going to take the hardest look at because it's one of those that's different. And Davenport University, for those who don't know, and we're going to look at that top game, UCM playing at Davenport. That game itself Davenport has lost 5 games over the last 2 full seasons. All 5 of those games are to either Ferris State or Grand Valley State up in the GLIAC. They have not lost to another conference opponent or anyone else for that matter.
Yeah.
So does that mean all of a sudden this is some, insurmountable odds for Central? No. Let's go ahead and take a look, and we're going to do a little tail of the tape for a moment. And we're going to look at this game in that kind of breakdown. And it's a really interesting setup because Central Mo is a whole lot better at throwing the football and being explosive offensively, whereas Davenport is more of a defensive-based football team. They're 2-0 right now, but they just won a schmoz of a football game against Bowie State, who is not what they were a few years ago. And so when I look at this matchup, John, Davenport is going to play good defense. They can get after the quarterback, but I don't know if they can score more than 20 points in a game. And I know Central Mo, they can do that by accident. So we're going to pick this one. Are you picking the upset here, John, or are you picking Central Mo to figure it out a little bit more defensively?
Well, if you're not sure they can score 20 points in a game, I'm not sure that UCM, even if they're not playing well, can score less than 40. I don't think it's 20. It's like they haven't scored less than 40 the last 2 years. So that's going to be hard to do. See, I think Central Missouri, and I thought they were going to be better defensively going into the year, and they didn't show me much last week, obviously. So right now their defense is an elixir for bad offense. They need to tackle the ball. So I have UCM 52, Davenport 34. I think it's a comfortable win for UCM, but if that happens, I think we have even more questions about this UCM defense moving forward. So that's really the challenge I'd put out there for UCM is show a pulse defensively, because your offense is still going to score points. If you can do anything defensively, you're going to be in good shape.
Well, Davenport's running back, number 4, Myron Harris, is one of the better running backs in the GLIAC. Neither quarterback's been especially successful throwing the ball. They will both run it plenty. Giamonte Peck, number 0 on their D-line, was on our Elite 100 team. He's 6'4", 320 pound, I think, D tackle. He's a problem, a real problem. But I think once Central gets their motor revving, if Davenport can't keep them under 20 points by halftime, then Central's just going to run away in it. So I have a feeling I'm going to take Central 41. Davenport, I think, will get to 20. That's where I have them. Now, Massey, very importantly, because I know that you pay very close attention to what Massey has to say. Massey has got UCM by 22.
Gotcha.
Okay.
That's probably that's a lot of respect for Davenport considering the leagues these two teams play in. Not that I'm taking a shot at the GLIAC, but Massey certainly is a little lower on the GLIAC.
Well, being in Super Region 3, Massey likes Super Region 3 quite a bit, just by the fact that they end up, rubbing shoulders and elbows with the MIAA. So
maybe Massey's knows what he's talking about then.
Maybe. So we kind of previewed this a little bit earlier. Our next game is Missouri Western at Emporia State.
Yeah.
Okay, we just had Coach on. Are you going to take Mo West to stay hot, or are you going to stay with the Hornets?
Well, in the last 5 matchups between these two teams,
well, you're going history on us.
Yeah, Mo West has won 4 of them. The last 2 wins by Mo West have been 34-31 and 38-37. So these teams will put up some points and they'll play some close games. The last time they were in Emporia, though, Emporia State got the 36-12 win. So, I mean, this matchup, it feels like Western always plays Hayes and Emporia early in the season, and those are always really good games between those teams. So I think this one will be really good too. But the way Emporia is playing right now defensively, and with that running game kind of helping out Gunnar Gundy a little bit, I just think they're too much, especially at home. I'm going 27-20 Emporia State for the win. I'm sorry, Coach Higgins, if that was the kiss of death right there.
Well, the Hornets are favored by 7 per Massey.
I'm
Massey
with riding with Massey.
Yeah, Massey's got Emporia State. Now that said, I think this one the score gets up a little bit, and I think we see Emporia State's offense shine a little more than it has. I have Emporia State 38-37. I think it's that kind of game. So we'll have to see. Next one, we've got Pitt State at Washburn. Now, Washburn played well at home last game. Pitt State might be reeling a little bit. Are you going to go for the Ichabods to get their first win here?
I don't think cornering an angry gorilla sounds very fun, and that's what Pitt State is this week. They've got to be mad. I'm sure they were feeling good after that Ferris game, and then to have somebody right up the road in Emporia kind of beat them up like they did, or take that win on their home field. They might get some revenge over another Kansas school here. I've got Pitt State. I've got them 38-13 in this game. I think they comfortably handle it. It's a little get-right game for Chad Dotson, who put up a lot of numbers last week, even though it comes in a loss. We normally associate the opposite with just kind of managing the game and getting that win. So I think they get the running game going, and 38-13 in this one.
Pitt's favored by 17. I like them to cover this.
Yeah.
I've got 40-13. I like Pitt kind of going away in that one. Northwest Missouri State at Missouri Southern down in Joplin. By the way, I'll let you know, Massey has the Bearcats as a 13-point favorite.
I think that's fair. I think that makes some sense with how they played last week. I mean, the history, obviously the history of Northwest Missouri Southern. I don't have to look that up. It's lopsided, but I've said before, a team is going to get this win at some point here and get a big statement. They almost had it against Northwest last year to begin the season, and kind of everything spiraled a little bit for Northwest after that. I have Missouri Southern pulling up the shocker. This may please some people in the Northwest athletic department that I'm going to pick against them again. But I have them 24-20. Missouri Southern getting the win.
Wow. Now, if I recall correct, they did not come through for you a week ago.
They did not. And that may be part of the thing Coach Wright dared me to do again to make this pick. So there may be a little bit of friendly trash talk going on back and forth.
I see. So in other words, you're getting Coach Wright some bulletin board material for him. I see how this works.
No, we got Joe Quinlan really truly is the one that really the strength and conditioning coach down here. He about knocked my arm off before the game with the slap on the back, letting me know that they saw it. So Joe Q can have this one.
I'm not sure who Mo West is. I'm sorry, Northwest. I'm not sure who the Bearcats are right now. I really don't know. I think they're probably going to trend more to what we just saw than what we have seen. Missouri Southern can throw the football a little bit. I'm going to take the Bearcats, but I don't think this is going to be a modern art masterpiece. I got the Bearcats winning 20-16. I don't have them covering. I need to see a little bit more from them on a weekly basis to really have that kind of trust at this point.
I thought it was a really interesting talk after the game with Coach Wright. He said kind of all summer they planned to do the running game one way, and it didn't work against Mankato. And he said you don't just scrap that after one game when you plan to do something one way, and then it didn't work against Kearney. And he basically said then we scrapped it, and they brought out this RPO game that they had last week, and they gave Chashawn Porter, who had never had a carry. He's a redshirt freshman, didn't have a carry the first 2 weeks. He started the game and got the first carry of the game and had an 11-yard carry to open the game, which is the longest run Northwest had all season at that point. They hadn't had a double-digit yard run all season, which is kind of crazy to say. So He only ended up with 5 carries in that game, but he's a downhill runner from Omaha. Maybe he wants to open up a Boss's Pizza, but he's
I like what you did there. Yep.
Yeah. But he kind of gives them a different element that's kind of interesting with the scat backs they have with Jaden Brady and Tank Young, and obviously those two got going as the game went on too. So they've kind of got a 3-headed little thing going on there with the running game that's kind of interesting. So it'll be fun to watch on a trip to Joplin this week.
I think in terms of the Bearcat run game, I am not buying yet.
It's
so
fair.
we'll see. Northeastern State heading to Fort Hays State. Not sure there's going to be a whole heck of a lot to say here, other than we know Fort Hays is a 32-point favorite. I guess it's more a matter of do you have them covering or not?
Yeah, I just said you don't want to corner an angry gorilla. Angry tiger probably doesn't work too well either. I think Hayes really gets it going this week again, gets the offense going. They were really stifled after those first 2 drives. And one of those drives was even a short 10-yard field. They cashed in for a touchdown. So really, they had one good drive against Northwest. I think that flips this week against Northeastern, who wasn't as impressive after that. Keep it close with Missouri Western there in week 1. So I've got 49-14 in this one, and I think Hayes gets right at home.
So you got them covering. I've got Hayes winning 30-7. I'm not convinced just yet that Hayes offense is the explosive type to where they're going to put up that kind of number, but they can certainly prove me wrong. We've got UCO.
None of these teams have much of a problem proving both of us wrong.
That's true. Just look at our tab. UCO traveling to Kearney. So you come off a win against a team who, basically you could probably debate was the favorite in the conference. And now you're going to go ahead and make a trip to Kearney. So how do they handle it? And do you think UCO stays hot here?
Yeah, it's really interesting going into that because I feel like we should be more. I mean, there are 3 undefeated teams in the conference, and these are 2 of them. So it feels like we should be more kind of excited for this game, but I feel like Kearney still has a lot to prove. They didn't wipe out Shadron. It helps that Northwest looked good after they beat them. So now you've got that to factor in a little bit, but it's hard to bet against UCO with that kind of performance they put up. I don't know how they're going to slow down Jet Huff because, I mean, Chris Ruhnke for Northwest threw for over 300 yards against them. They can throw, or they've given up some plays in the passing game. So I've got UCO winning 38-21. I think it's kind of a prove-it game for UCO a little bit. Get this win and then see how Emporia and Missouri Western goes, because it's possible the winner of this game is alone in first place in the conference after this week.
Sure. UCO, by the way, Massey has UCO by 3. So, we kind of joke around about the Massey system that
that's kicking our butt.
Well, it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't adjust quickly enough for a momentum for a hot team or things like that. Now, that's saying that Massey's got more right so far than we have. So a little perspective is probably needed there. I do like UCO to win this one. I don't know if Nebraska Kearney's going to have enough offense to kind of hang around once this game gets into the back half and really, gets down the stretch. I've got
Well,
UCO going 34-17 in this one.
okay.
Don't think that's a whole lot different than what your thoughts are.
No.
But I'm kind of holding judgment back on Kearney for a little bit because I don't know enough what to make of that Northwest win,
Yeah.
and I don't give a ton of kudos for the win over
Chadman.
Shadron just because they're just not a real good football team right now.
No,
So-
they aren't, and that was close. And yeah, it's that Northwest one that you're really hanging your hat on. I'm just curious to see in this game. I like that it's the night game and kind of by itself there on the schedule because I want to see Jet Huff. I want to see if he can put down a performance like he did. Do we have a Zach Zabrowski of last year's situation where nobody really knew about him before the year, and
Right.
now he's just going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country? So that's the question for me going in is what do we see from Jet Huff? And
That'd be pretty wild. I agree. We're going to go ahead and take a look at our D2 football top 25. You and I are both voters in this poll nationally. You can see in the kind of that gray and silver shadowing. We've got Pitt State had dropped down from 3, if I'm not mistaken, to 6. UCO took a bigger tumble down from 2, and I think a lot of that's because of the fact that their defense, some of those highlights they gave up 57. I think people just feel a little bit differently about kind of the way the back half of that game went versus a 3-point loss to Emporia State that maybe thought it was a little bit more of a known commodity.
yeah, I think so too. I think there's just more questions. Pitt State's already kind of proven it over Ferris. I don't think – I'm sure some voters maybe did drop them below Ferris, but I don't see how you can. I mean, they're right next to each other, so I assume it wasn't unanimous.
Well, and that was just a few weeks ago, John.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like those teams – it's not like Ferris has beaten Grand Valley or done anything to kind of rectify that yet. They've got quality wins, but I think you have to keep Pitt State above them. I had Central Missouri a little higher. I had them at 8. I just think those. I mean, it's the same order. I had the same teams in front of them, so I had them above Kutztown, Central Washington, Slippery Rock, just because I think if you put those teams on the field, they're not stopping Zach Zabrowski. But I get why people would have them above them. And Emporia was a little higher on Emporia at 14. But I get it.
By comparison, I had UCM at 8 myself.
Okay.
I had Pitt at 6. I had Emporia State at 16. And I personally had UCO at 20. I know there's some folks who didn't have UCO even in their top 25. Sometimes respect like this can take a little while, to really come. And so as we're taking, I don't think you and I were a whole lot different in our poll, but you know what? You and I
had the overall at 20 as well. So yeah.
I think in the overall scheme of things, when you take a look at our national map, you and I are very close together in terms of proximity, 5 hours away, 4.5 hours away, versus, the rest of our map. So I don't expect you and I to be wildly different at times. But, as we take a look, I think some of the biggest differences, John, that we would see with our poll versus maybe the coaches' poll is I think we're much more bullish on the wins and rewarding Minnesota State Mankato. Whereas I want to say they're like 9th, I want to say, in the AFCA poll. Yeah. So that's quite a bit different in my opinion. And at the same time, I'm not sure that I think they're a little bit higher on, some of the other teams like maybe a Kutztown or some of those guys or a Lenore Rhine than we have been so far. I think we've got a whole lot of respect, even with one loss, for the Pitt States, the Ferrises, the Central Mo's, because of the thinking that you mentioned, that even though they have a loss, if you put them on a neutral field right now with some of those other teams in that next grouping, that they're going to win those football games.
And really what it comes down to, I think, is kind of sorting out the poll within the poll is where you have teams in different regions ranked. Like, I think you have to have Minnesota State over Colorado Mines right now because of what
Yeah.
they did to Northwest in a non-conference game against an MIAA opponent we perceive to be probably at this point, I think people would perceive Northwest to be better than Washburn. And Minnesota State dominated that game, and Colorado Mines did not against Washburn, both on the road, very similar. So,
Well, and they also had the win over a ranked Bemidji team too.
Yes, exactly. And then once you get into the league, I think most people consider the Northern Sun to be a step above the RMAC, even though both are very good leagues when you look nationally. But I think that's kind of the poll within the poll is kind of interesting to see that. And you got the same thing. Like, some people may look and say, hey, why are Pitt and Central Missouri above Emporia and Central Oklahoma? They just beat them. And it's that same thing. You've kind of got to, it's the third week of games. You kind of got to prove it a little bit more if you haven't consistently been there.
Yeah.
Like
the amount of recent success, and I don't mean just top 25 success. I'm talking about top 5, top 10 success from a Pitt State, from a Ferris. I think that respect probably stays on your name a little bit longer.
All you have to do is look at last year's poll around this time and where UCM was at that time, because they had been bad the year before. And then they got this kid Zabrowski, and we're like, well, we got to see what this guy does. And by the end of the year, you could make an argument they were the second best team in the country. So
yeah, the polls can never be about just one result between two teams. You have to be able to take a look at the whole picture, I think. But well, you know what? We need to always make sure that any of the video we get or any of the assistance we get with this show, John, we want to make sure we give kudos out. And, we've got a list of folks here, anything from, the Topeka Capital Journal to, WIBW in Kansas to Brett Kennedy, KQTV, who I have a feeling is going to be a great help for us this year, just with some of the stuff he's coming up with. And the MIAA network is always going to be a great aid for us. For those who are looking to, if you can't get enough of John Dykstra, boy, I hear that all the time. You can take a look in the top right of the graphic there. You can go ahead and follow him on Twitter. You can go to a game he'll be at, and maybe follow him around, and just go ahead and see if he'll strike up a conversation. Me, I would rather you not. I'm up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, as a lot of people know. This is I'm kind of filling in this year for the MIAA Weekly with our guy Brandon Meisner, sidelined. But I'm enjoying this process a lot, John. And as long as I can go ahead and make sure I'm staying ahead of you in the pick'em, you know what? I feel like I'm justifying some of my words here. And
and we had those lists of people helping us out. I'll add one to that with
absolutely
John Dales at KOAM down in Joplin. He helped us out with some pit stuff.
Great.
And did a great job with that, as well as Landon, my guy from out in Topeka at that TV station, has helped us out a couple times this year. And he ended up going 4-1 in his pick'ems this week. So I hate to give Landon too much credit, but he kicked my butt in our newspaper pick'em. So there we go. When you nail Northwest and you nail Emporia, you had a pretty good week.
John, in closing, for folks who want to be able to kind of catch a little bit more of what you're producing, you guys there, tell them a little bit about the Maryville Forum and how they can go ahead and for a easy rock bottom price, they can get a lot of your work for a whole year.
They can. I had a fan mention it today, actually, give us a social media shout out. But for $29, you can get yearly subscription to the forum online, which I recommend for anybody not in Maryville. For $40, you can get delivered to your doorstep and the online. But $29 gets you online. Beginning of the year, we highlight it. Beginning of the year with the preview section we do every year, and just kind of as the season goes, we'll have more MIAA wide columns. We have our pick'em every week where we have media members from all over the MIAA. So try to keep up with it, and $29 for a year. I hate to think of the things I spend $29 on in a random week or random month. So that gets you a whole year of content there. So
Absolutely.
MaryvilleForum.com if you'd like to support in that way, and get a lot of Bearcats and a lot of other things too with high school and everything. I had a soccer game the other day with your Minnesota State Mavs. It was 0-0. Yes. Northern. You basically own the Northern Sun.
That's
so,
what it is.
So 0-0 after 90 minutes of soccer. So
no, thank you. I'm good. Yeah.
But always something going on here in good old Maryville, Missouri.
Well, John, I appreciate you making the time once again, and obviously, if you didn't catch it earlier in the broadcast, Garin Higgins was on with us from Emporia State. Make sure you rewind, catch a little bit of that earlier in the video. But that's it for us for now for MIAA Weekly. We will see you at the games, and we will see you next week. Thank you.